C'est écoute 𝐼𝐶𝐵.
Kiana, how are you?
Hi, Lexi. I am good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. I know that we're talking about intuition and trusting our gut and things like that, but before we go there,
Yeah.
sis, where your people from?
So I am from Houston by way of Jamaica and Nigeria. So I'm like a melting pot all up and through here. My mom's side of the family is from Jamaica and actually a little bit of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽, which I learned later on in life. And then my dad's side of the family is Nigerian. So I grew up in a very Caribbean household, very much a melting pot being in Houston as well, with that like Southern, influence. So yeah.
I hear you grew up in a seasoned household. That's what I heard.
Very, very much. Very seasoned, very spicy. All types of personality. Oh yeah, it was all up and through there.
For the folks watching, Black is not a monolith, right?
Absolutely.
Like I tell people, we are the same and we very much aren't the same at the exact same time.
Hmm.
So I'm just imagining all these flavors and layers coming out. Oh,
Yes.
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 Oh,
Yes. I mean,
yes.
such
Yes.
amazing food too.
Oh,
My
yes.
son is, I have a 3-year-old. My boyfriend is Haitian. So my son is like forward. He has all types of stuff in him, which is so amazing. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. You're like my little black diaspora baby.
Diasporette. That's
Yes.
beautiful because my daughter, my husband is Nigerian, and
Oh,
so we
nice.
always joke. I'm like, part of her spiciness is she's just the diaspora. Like she just out here like, what's good, what's going on?
Yep.
I
Yep.
got time today,
Yep.
but now I'm gonna have to tell her about your son because your son just brought it to a whole new level.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
he already has the spiciness. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I love it for him. I do. Thank you for raising a baby freedom fighter. It's a lot of work, so I thank you. Thank you. So today we're talking about just in many ways owning your gut, owning your spirit, and when that voice inside you says, "Girl, sit down." You need to listen. But when it says, "Girl, stand up,"
Yes.
you need to twerk it all the way up.
Work it, yes.
Twerk it all the way up. Can you give me an example of a time and be very specific
Hmm.
when that voice said twerk it all the way up and you were very hesitant to do so in your career?
Um, I think, I mean, that spirit of twerking it up has come up a lot of different times. But I think that one of the most recent times, probably, I guess, my transition from, I was working at Pandora at one point, not the jewelry company, because a lot of people think it's the jewelry company, but the music company. I was working at Pandora Music, and someone had reached out to me from a label on LinkedIn, a music label on LinkedIn. And she was like, oh, we've met a few years ago. You probably don't even remember me, but, during our conversation at some event, I always thought when I have an opportunity on my team, I want to hire this girl. And I was like, oh, what? First of all, that like never happened to me before where someone like expressed something like that. So,
Isn't it so flattering? Like, can we just pause? Isn't that one of the most flattering things in
yes,
capitalism? When someone's like,
yes.
girl, you don't even really got to apply. I know. Just come get this money.
Girl, I was like, really? Oh, because when I tell you, Lexi, I couldn't even remember this woman. Like, I couldn't remember. Like, over time, I really thought about it, and I was like, oh, maybe we met at this event. But whatever conversation we had, it was like short, maybe like 15, 10 minutes. So, anyway, she told me that, and then, asked me if I would have a conversation. So I met with her and told her like, oh, I was actually happy at my job. Like I enjoyed it. It was during the pandemic. I was pregnant. Oh my gosh. So it was like a lot going on, but my team was so supportive. I had moved into the sales department. So it was just like a whole different thing for me, but I was actually enjoying it. So we interviewed, met, and then she introduced me to, a bunch of different people over time. And when the time came for her to offer me the role, I was just like, I don't really know if I want to do this. Like, I was kind of up in the air about it because, again, I really loved my job at the time. But I kind of wanted to go back to working at a music label. And so I kind of had to lean into, I guess, that twerk it spirit where it was like, which is so funny, twerk it spirit. I had to like really lean into that and really, try to discern, is this an opportunity that's going to make sense for me and kind of push me out of my comfort zone because of the role. They were just building it. They were just building the department. So I ended up taking the role and I stayed there for 2 years at a music label. So yeah, it was something where I was like, you know what, girl, just go for it. Like, yes, you love this job. The people here love you. So maybe hopefully if you don't want to come back, you can come back. But yeah, it was a really transformative experience.
Let's go one layer deeper, because what I also hear from you is some possibility of imposter syndrome, of that possible transition before you did it. So walk us through like the emotional, it sounds like maybe there was trepidation or emotion around this woman allegedly from your past. Like, girl, come get this coin. What were your emotions around that?
I think it was me being in a space at the time where I literally was a brand new mom. Like, I had my son Miles in March, and I think that opportunity came about like 3 months late, like right when I was coming off of maternity leave. So when you're stepping into a new role as a mom, right, you're also just thinking about, how am I going to balance all of this? Stepping into a new role, into a new department that they were building at the time, and just trying to figure things out. We were still at home, right? Like, it was still the pandemic happening. I think that January that I actually started the role, things had kind of started to open up a bit more. But I think it was just like, am I capable of stepping into a space in a department that I've never experienced before? It was merch. I'd never done merch before, like e-commerce. And am I going to be able to shine in the way that I want to, being this, I'm the same person, but, a new person in a sense when I have a whole baby. So that was kind of my thing of like, okay, I don't want to go here and then not be able to show up as myself and like do the things that I know I can do. So yeah, that was something I had to just decide, like, you got to put that to the side, girl. You got to put that to the side.
Your story resonates with me so much because I had those exact same feelings. I actually started a new job 10 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And I was terrified.
Yeah, girl, I can imagine.
Because of the responsibility that was given to me, because the leader made it very clear he believes in me. I worked with him before, and now I'm walking into a situation legit half dead, because Kiana, we don't talk about how pregnancy is ghetto, okay?
Oh, girl.
And your physical body changes. It's not as easy as, oh, I'm tired today. Like, I was hospitalized multiple times, and I think a lot of imposter syndrome came in of, how do I show up the way that I used to show up? Is
Yes.
that how you felt?
Yes, yes. I mean, you're right. People don't talk about it enough. Like, there were so many things in pregnancy where I was like, wait, what? Your body does what? And you feel what? So I feel like, as you dig deeper and you find communities and you're like, oh, why I didn't know about this before? But during the time, especially post-pregnancy, sure, during pregnancy, like, that's a whole other conversation. But post-pregnancy, I don't think people talk about it enough in terms of, I was breastfeeding. And that was a whole journey for me. I was like, this is what your breasts do? Like, I just am so confused. And then, yeah, mommy guilt. And then, leaving your child. And then, me feeling like, oh, like, I am a mom, but I'm still Qyana, like, still pay attention to me. It's so funny because I would like joke with a friend of mine before I got pregnant. And she would always say, she had a kid, and she would always say, yeah, whenever I'm out, people are always like, they address my child first. Like, they're just always like, oh, Cameron, oh, hey. And I didn't, I couldn't relate to it at the time because I didn't have a kid. And then I realized, I'm like, yo, that happens all the time. Like, they immediately zoom in on the child. They don't necessarily ask how you're doing. It's just, oh, hi, cutie. Oh, hi, mother. And I love that, but I'm also like, it takes a lot to realize that your life just changes in so many different ways. And so, yeah, you're just a different person. So navigating that while also remembering like, no, you are the same person, you have the same goals, same dreams, but you just have a beautiful child now that you're bringing off of the ride. Was yeah, just an altering experience for me. So I had to really like cope through that.
I love that for you because real talk, sis, I really felt like the day she came out of me, the
Yeah.
old person died. Like I remember being in the hospital in the postpartum unit and you know
Yeah.
people coming to say hi and very beautiful, but like
Yeah.
having this out of body experience like who is this person in my body? I don't know you. And a
Yeah.
lot of my postpartum journey was in many ways this battle of letting old Lexi B without a child go. Yeah. How was that transition for you? Because I'm not gonna lie, my transition of relearning myself slash learning this new person has
Yeah.
been extremely difficult.
It feels, you know what, it feels kind of weird sometimes because like I'll look back on old photo. I went to Howard. So like I'll look back at old photos or, you know, we had our I think it was like 10-year reunion last year. I didn't go. But, you know, it was a lot of conversation around it and then, you know, friends are texting you memories and all that kind of stuff. And yo, it just feels like I'm in two totally different universes. Like that was one universe where I'm like in the distance like wow, I experienced all that or like my time in New York in my 20s and like early 30s was lit. I mean, we did so much. There was so many people from Howard here. Even my friends that I didn't have, like my best friends, they were in DC, but they would come up all the time. I met a bunch of people here. I enjoyed working. So all of that, my life was just so like fun. And then it's like this other universe where it's like, oh, mom. And I look at my camera roll and every photo is of Miles. Like,
For the record, as it should be.
as
As
it
it
should be,
should be.
for
Yes.
sure, for sure. And love my life, and I love my son. I love my partner. Like, I love this life, but it just is also very. It just feels like two totally distinct experiences. And I do see how you look on TV shows or whatever, sometimes, and you have like the parent at some point where they're like, oh my gosh, like I can't even like, it just feels like yesterday that I was out in college or doing X, Y, and Z. And, I think it was like Mean Girls or one of those movies where the mom is like trying to be cool and she's trying to like tap back into herself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I get it now. Because like you just at times forget that like, yo, I was a whole other like being. I was like independent. I was all of this. So sometimes you want to tap into that reality. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I have friends now that are, single or maybe don't have kids. And so they're able to travel and do all types of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy that was my life. Like I could just get up and go. And now I'm like, okay, I can't just get up and go. I got to get up. I got to get little Miles ready. I got to do all the things. So yeah, it's sometimes I'm like, wow, this is very interesting how quickly time travels.
I remember when I 6 weeks maybe postpartum, my mom was like, doesn't it feel like, 'cause she was making this point that when she had me, how she couldn't imagine her life before me. And I looked at this woman so quickly and I was like, lies. I can definitely imagine my life before her. My mom started laughing. And I love how you said the two different universes, because I don't think that I'm the parent that's like, I don't know what my life like was before. I'm like, no, no, no. I can give you detail in color. I can tell you t-shirt sizes. I can tell you colors of those t-shirts. I can be very specific.
So specific.
But very different. Just I feel like I've lived two lives.
Yes.
It's weird.
That
Yeah.
is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yes. You just feel like it's as if like sometimes I'm looking like I look back on those memories and I'm really appreciative of it because I do feel like it taught me so much and it like helped to shape who I am. Like my college experience, my New York experience, like I was saying before, I think I had my child at the right time for myself, where I was able to say, okay, girl, you've done all the things. Like now you're in a place where you can settle down and you're like mentally prepared for it, just based on like all the different life experiences that you've had.
And appreciate all the things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay? I feel like I love pre Lexi B, like pre mommy Lexi B more as a mom now than I
Yeah.
probably did before I was a mom. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, oh girl, you were that big.
Oh,
I
girl.
love this for
Yes.
you.
Yes. Sometimes I'm like, yo, when Miles gets older, because it's funny. He's only 3, but I like to say that he's like a teenager in a 3-year-old's body. Because he's so much like me, where he feels like he knows everything. He feels like he just has all the answers. And I'm like, you're 3. So I can totally see him at some point being like, oh, mom, like you're, and I feel like I am so cool. But I'm like, he has to be ready. Because when he's a little older, I'm gonna be like, yo, Miles, I was out here. Like, do you know who your mom is? Like, do you understand?
I cannot wait to remind my daughter that on a daily basis.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
no shade, no tea, but you act like I wasn't. You don't think that I thought or did that, girl?
Hello.
Dress it
Hello.
down. You are not creative. You are
No.
not creative.
I'm like,
Yes.
where do you think you got it from?
Boom.
From me.
You know,
Okay.
like you said earlier, sometimes you got to let these kids know. Like sometimes you have
Yes.
to get that inner thug out
Yes.
and be like, look, don't
Yes.
let this motherhood fool you.
Sometimes
Okay?
you gotta pop out and show ninjas.
See?
This is who I
See?
am. Don't ever forget it.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
This is where you got it from.
So going back to work,
Yeah.
and now that you are this evolved, updated Kiana
Yeah.
at work, what has motherhood taught you about having to trust your gut professionally? Because now that I am a mom, I always tell people I did not understand trusting my gut until I became a parent.
Yeah.
And did y'all know the hospital just lets you take the kid? They don't require a test,
No.
not a lot of paperwork. They're
No.
just like, take it. We assume you are going to do well,
Oh,
right? Which to me is crazy and very irresponsible. But so I think that trusting your gut when you become a parent becomes your lifeline. It becomes your survival because unless you've had a kid before, we don't know what we're doing,
No.
right?
No.
So what has that process of trusting your intuition and your gut to literally keep Miles alive? How has that translated into the work environment?
I look at life and like my professional life in a totally different lens to an extent. I'm still the same like ambitious hustler. Like I still have the same level of ambition, but now I'm doing it for something much greater for myself, which sounds so cheesy and like, cliche, but when you're in that experience, it's like, oh, I get it now. Like I get why my mom worked so hard to like, even just like put food on the table, right? It's like for me with Miles and like with my dreams and my goals, I'm like, oh girl, you got to get it. Like I'm a very big like personal development person. So a lot of times I listen to like motivational things and, I'm a Christian. So I listen to, pastors speak about X, Y, and Z. And one of the things I heard this morning that I was listening to was a motivational speech or whatever. And it was talking about like, you have to know your why. Like you have to wake up every day and be ambitious, but not just for the sake of the material things. It's like, what's your bigger why? And he is completely my why. Like, sure, I want I want us to have a big house and I want all the, the nice things. But at the end of the day, I want to set him up for success so that he never, ever has to, do anything outside of what he wants to do because he has the world at his oyster. And that really pushed me when I think about, over the summer, I left my job and decided to go out and do my own thing as an entrepreneur. And a big piece of that was like, yo, I want to do this now because I have a kid that I love and that I want to, raise and serve as an example of building something that I truly believe in, that I think can create an impact within, the industry that I'm in. And so a lot of that has been fueled by him. Like there's days where I'm like, I do not feel like getting up. Or I do not feel like, especially when you're an entrepreneur, it's like you eat what you kill. So it's a lot of like you getting on the phone and you hustling and you doing all those things. And there's for sure days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like it. But that thought immediately pops out of my mind because I'm like, I have a son that I want to give the world to. So me going with my gut and trusting that this is an experience that I'm going to put my all into in order to like build something meaningful and, you know, maybe even have him one day like work for me, is something that really pushes me.
What was that feeling like? Let's go back, because I do think that jumping into the entrepreneurial pool full time is a big deal. I think now because of hustle culture, we don't look at it as a big deal as it is. And I'm like, yo, I'm leaving these benefits. That's a big, big deal. What was your gut telling you when you were thinking about this? What was that spirit, that intuition? What was that ancestral drive telling you of why you need to do this?
Yeah, the ancestral drive. So I had gotten to a place in my job where honestly I just was not happy. I was so I don't know if it was depression, but it was definitely an overwhelming feeling of I cannot be here. Like when you are in a space, and I had never experienced that before. Like I've had roles maybe where I wasn't the biggest fan of, and you know, you look for other jobs and you move on. But that was probably the first time where I was like, oh, something in my spirit, like this is just not right. Like I would come home. I also live in the suburbs now, a little bit like an hour from the city. So I'd have to take a bus. On the bus it's an hour and a half. So I take a bus into work, hour and a half, just to feel overwhelmed and my spirit feel off and just not be in a good space. And then hop my butt back on the bus, an hour and a half, get home at like 8:30, immediately jump into being a mom, taking care of him, putting him to bed. And I was just like, I am not happy. Like I am not enjoying this. And it shows up in your relationships, right? Like my relationship with my partner. I'm crying. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like I am just not enjoying myself. And it shows up how you interact with your child. You know, you may be a little less, you know, still loving, but just a little bit more distant because you're so like mentally, you're just all over the place. And yeah, I was like, I can't take this anymore. I was like, I can't afford to die young. Okay. I got a little kid. I got too much things that I'm trying to do. And time is like our biggest asset. I'm like, I am also a very big believer in like not sitting and dwelling in something. Like if I'm not feeling this, then I need to move on. So I got to a place where I was like, all right, I just have to like let this go. And the reason that I jumped into entrepreneurship was because I knew that I wanted to create something that made me feel as though I was contributing in a much bigger way with ideas and a vision that came from me, right? Again, I've worked at great companies. I've had great bosses in the past. But I wanted to bet on myself. I'm like, yo, if I can be in a job where I feel like I'm contributing so much and I'm not getting that in return. And there are people that are maybe getting elevated that don't deserve to be, then why can't I just create my own thing? Like, why can't I create something that I would want, create a place where I would want to work if I were an employee? So yeah, that's what drove me. I was like, yo, I have to do this now. I'm very confident in my skills and my experience. So if, you know, God forbid, if this doesn't work out, I can always go find another job, but I am only going to be in my 30s for a few more years. So why not just take a chance on myself and really go for it? And I was like, girl, just do it. So I did it.
I'm going to challenge you there and say, you know, F your 30s, you're only going to be you in this lifetime once.
Yes. Amen to that.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know about you, but in the spirit of motherhood and sisterhood, I think that when I became a mom, time became a huge trigger for me.
Absolutely.
Time from the angle of I don't have enough hours in the day, but also time from like, oh, the clock is ticking. As my dad said to me when I was little, two things are going to be consistent in life. You're going to be black and you're going to die. Everything else is a choice.
Absolutely.
And I feel like and I've been told that since I was very young, for better or for worse.
Yeah,
But when I became a mom, it was like, oh, yo, like this time thing is real.
absolutely. Yo,
You know?
Lexi, I think was it last year or the year before last? There were people who, none of my close friends, but friends of friends or someone's cousin that I knew, like who passed away from things in their 30s or like in their 20s. And that kind of like every situation would like shake me where I'd be like, yo, the idea of you passing away so early is like such a, I don't know, such a fear of mine. Like it kind of gives me anxiety. And so you get to a point where you're in a space and you don't feel appreciated or you feel as though it's not going anywhere. And it's like, I don't have time to waste. Like I have to move on to something that's going to give me joy because yeah, to your point, we don't know when we're going to pass away. And so I don't want to waste my time in a space or waste my energy where it doesn't make sense for me.
I've also come to grips with the fact that, so I did not go to an HBCU, I went to a PWI, which means all the black people knew each other.
Yeah,
But
of course.
having to navigate now in my 30s, the number of people that went to college with me, went to undergrad with me,
Yeah.
who are no longer here. And that's been a huge
Yeah.
hit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Of like, yo, I was in psychology class with this person and we used to eat waffles. And even though we weren't the closest of friends, like
Right.
he or she is my age. I know that he or she had dreams and goals. So I don't know. I think that time and life have really been highlighted for me. So how has entrepreneurship been? I hear similar to parenthood, it is also ghetto for
Oh,
many reasons, and also very similar to parenthood, very joyous and
yes.
fantastic. But how has it been for you?
That is such a good explanation or definition of it, description, because girl, yeah, it is ghetto. I'm actually really enjoying it though. Like, and I don't know if it's because I am just also just so happy to be out of the space that I was in. That is part of it. Being out of the space of, again, just being mentally overwhelmed and just not feeling like that was a place for me, to now feel like, oh, I am building something from scratch. Like it's actually pretty dope. And I don't want to glamorize it because, I haven't gotten to a place yet where I'm some like multi-million dollar company, right? Like that will come. But I think there's totally something in the process, which I'm really enjoying. Like I'm really big on like the creative aspect of things. So I loved like creating my logo and thinking of the colors and getting into the tone and the messaging of my brand. But I also really, really enjoy, talking to potential clients and getting an understanding of what they're looking for and then ideating with, clients about how to bring their idea to life, but adding like my sauce on top of it. Like that's been so dope. Like last year I was able to have, I shifted my focus from a talent agency to a marketing agency. But last year when I was a talent agency, I worked with like four different talent and it was really cool to like really utilize what I've learned in the corporate space and like bring that to the table to that talent to be able to say like, this is what a brand is looking for. Like, this is how you should think about your social content. And even beyond that, like, how can we build you to be a boss, to be more than just someone who's, a brand ambassador, but someone who's like actually in control of your career as a business. And so now looking at things from a marketing, just a full marketing service, that's been really cool, pivoting and then figuring out how to bring things to life for a brand. I've really enjoyed it. And I know that there's going to be ups and downs, of course. But again, I think the journey is what I'm appreciative of. And I'm like really excited about all the different elements of it.
Has your intuition, that gut check, has it
Yeah.
ever done you wrong?
Ooh, that is a really good question.
And let me be specific. Let me be specific. Is that when I say has it ever done you wrong? Has it ever told you to go right and you went
Yeah.
right? and it was a complete mess?
Oh, girl. I mean, not to beat on a dead horse, but so I guess going back to the story about the woman who called me for the job, and I was like, I don't know, and then I ended up going. For so long, I once the situation within that experience became just super overwhelming, I remember talking to God and being like, why am I here? Like that for me felt like exactly what you're talking about, where I did go with my gut. I did go with, what I thought was God speaking to me about like, oh, you've wanted to, go back to work into a label and be in a creative space and blah, blah, blah. And then going there and just being like, hold on, this what you want me to do? Like, this don't make no type of sense. So for the longest, I did feel like, man, like, why did I leave a job that I enjoyed? Why did I leave a team that I really appreciated? I had a Black boss. She was amazing, loved her, at Pandora. And so I was like, why did I do that? But the other side of that, which I've learned as, the years have gone by, or the months, whatever, is that I think everything happens for a reason. Because I don't think that if I did not take that job, I would be in this space of entrepreneurship. I think I would have enjoyed working at Pandora, and, I would have elevated, and, maybe I would have moved on or not. But I think I was enjoying myself so much that God maybe put me in the situation of working at that label and being uncomfortable and scratching my head every second, like, why are we doing things like this? This don't make no sense. I don't understand. Why are people like, am I crazy, or like, what is going on? I don't think that I would have thought to create my own thing if I wasn't in a space where I did see things that were disorganized or not on point, or like the appreciation piece of it. So while the whole gut thing felt like off in that experience, I am actually appreciative, and I do feel like God put me in that space to get me to where I am.
Look, girl, I tell people I was baptized in Black Jesus and Harriet Tubman's ghost. And if I asked myself that question, I would say short term, absolutely.
Yeah.
Short term, have I been mad at my internal ancestral clock for taking me someplace that made me uncomfortable and annoyed and want to fight people? Absolutely.
Right.
But long term, I'm like, oh, that was the right move. And I remember talking to my mom about that many years ago. And she looked at me and she said, the ancestors said they were going to take you where you need to go. They never said that it wasn't going to be hard to get there. And I was like, okay, Pastor Mom. Okay.
Preach.
See? And so maybe that was it. Maybe your ancestors were like, Kiana, we're going to take you out of this clutch little bed you in, and we're going to put you in some mess.
Yes.
Because we need you to understand. And maybe you're hard-headed like me, and you can only learn by beating the wall.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was it.
And putting you in spaces where, like,
Yes.
First of all, I was in rooms with executives that I read about growing up. And I was big, like Billboard, Power 100. Like every year, that was my thing. I always knew I wanted to be in the music industry or entertainment. Blah, blah. So I always had the list. I was always like reading to understand the industry. So I was in the room with these executives, which was like crazy to me, like contributing ideas or, going to events. I was working on Burna Boy's thing and Cardi B and this person and that person. So it was definitely something that when I think back on it, I'm like, God knew what he was doing. God knew what he was doing, the ancestors. Because for me to think, at that point in my life that I was able or capable to be in a room with X, Y, and Z executive and contributing ideas, I probably would have been like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like, I feel like I probably need like a few more years. But no, it was like, girl, you have to go. Like I was creating presentations and meeting with like big managers of these big artists and convincing them to do this. And I got to learn and understand e-commerce and retail and, develop relationships. So all of that stuff that came with it was like, it was a hard lesson during the time where I was like, gosh, damn it, why do I have to go through this? But for sure, like I think God really threw me in that situation to say, girl, you are capable. Just because someone has a title of VP or CEO or blah, 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 does not mean that they are any more capable than you. And it's not to say that I know everything or that now I feel like, oh, well, I can go toe to toe with all, these people that have X amount of experience. But I do feel much more sure in myself, which is like the space that I think God put me in to show me like, yeah, you can do this.
So reintroduce yourself to us. Who are you?
Ooh. So I am Kiana Agina. I am a creative. I am someone who lives passionately and loves life and loves my son and is building a legacy, not just for myself through this marketing agency that I'm building called Glen Haze, but also for my family and for my mom. My agency was named in honor of both of my moms. My mom, Glennis, so Glen and Haze. Glennis, which is my birth mom, who passed away when I was 2, and then Hazel. Haze is short for Hazel. She was my aunt, my mom's sister, who raised us. So I'm someone who is trying to build a legacy to make my family proud, those that are on earth and those who are no longer with us.
I love that. Well, I have to say, I'm not part of your family, and I am very proud of you.
Oh, thank
I
you.
am. I am. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Lexi. I appreciate that.